Hello and welcome back. Thank you for joining me here. Let's have a conversation today about our own limitlessness, shall we? Let's talk about the fact, the truth, that there are no limits whatsoever. And also, let's have a very important discussion about how we view our brother. The two play into each other. And how we view our brother is not what he really is. So we'll explain a little bit of that. We don't see things as they are here in the world because we see ourselves as individual self sustaining survival units. We call ourselves human beings. And we hang a bunch of additional labels on ourselves as well, thinking we're limited to this device. We know we're not limited to that device, yet we don't live our lives accordingly. And so we end up, well, here, turning to this collection of traditions, of which this course is but one of many, that we call spiritual traditions, to what we call spiritual practice, and we call it a walk, a journey, a trajectory. You may call it a marathon or a sprint or whatever you call it. We're here because we've been called to be here. And here you are. I mean, when you think about it, you could certainly be watching anything else right now. And we all know there are a lot of phenomena out there, especially on the internet, where we see all kinds of content. Yet here you are. Very important, very significant. There's a message in this conversation for you from the Holy Spirit, your inner teacher. You can call your inner teacher whatever you want to call it. It's part of our mind, not an external power, not a foreign power, not an outside power, because, and this is something that you may not have heard expressly stated, there is nothing outside you. And if you've watched these videos, you've heard it many times. If you're a long-time course student, again, you'll have heard this before. There is nothing outside you. So the way we look at our brother is, well, upside down and backwards. When we appear to look out of this thing, which we take to be us, with its eyes, which merely reproduce images after all, when we think we see our brother, what we're looking at is not who and what he really is. Now, I'm using the term brother here for those who may not be familiar with the terminology of this course or who are new to it. The term brother applies to everyone, men, women, children, all existing life forms. Brother. It's everyone. When we look at our brother, we appear to be looking outside of ourselves because we've taken our individual human body, apparently individual, apparently human body, for our home sweet home, ourself with a lowercase s. And when we appear to look out, we see other individual self sustaining survival units. We limit our brother to a body. We don't see him as he really is. Chapter 15 of the text talks about, and this is something that the text talks about in various places, the great rays, as in great rays of light, pouring from your brother, who he really is. We don't see this. We see this. We see a limitation on communication. We may think we're excellent communicators here in the world. We may think we're highly articulate, erudite scholars, good with people, charismatic, or whatever labels we wish to assign to ourselves and others. The body is a limitation on communication. You're not a body. I'm not a body. Your brother is not a body. So we could choose to look on him in our standard limit, full of limits, or limited way, body. Or we could choose to see him as he is. Right now, in the present moment, we could see the great rays shining from him all the way to God. Love, light, our brother, as what he is. So here's something. As you see your brother, you see yourself. Do you see him as limited, or do you see him as limitless? So you see yourself. This applies 100% of the time, though we may wish to deny it and resist it. No problem. All resistance is of the ego, as it scraps for its very survival. It is deeply and severely threatened right now because you're paying attention to the Holy Spirit. Yeah, you're paying attention to A Course in Miracles. Keep going. Who you are is beyond all limitations. It is beyond all concepts, including language. There is only perfect oneness, and God is the only reality, which means we're one with God. That is all the math, incidentally, that is ever required in A Course in Miracles. That's the math test. You passed. One, remember, you're not a body. You know this to be true, or you wouldn't be on what we call the spiritual path. This would not attract you. And because it does, what comes up all the time is all of the interference with our sight, with our vision. That's what comes up often, is what appears to be conflict and stress, discomfort and drama. What's really going on is who our brother is, in other words, who we are. Yeah, the great rays extending to God. We're one with God, and that has always been, and always will be. It's eternal. It's outside of time. It simply is. Yet we don't see it because there's a lot of interference in our mind. You may very well consider these to be barriers or barricades, a fog bank, a veil, a shroud, a cloud, a wall between who we are and where we appear to be, our sight. What our practice involves is looking at all of these obstacles directly and seeing them as they are, nothing. Forgive and release. We look at all of our stuff here on the spiritual path. That's how we set the ego aside. Truth shines brilliantly and brightly just as it is. What we're doing is we're lifting the veil that we've placed over our face, over our eyes, so that we may see it as it is. When we truly see our brother, ourselves, everything as it is, then truth dawns of itself. It's said here in A Course in Miracles, God takes the final step himself. That is what we call awakening. That is what we call enlightenment or realizing God or liberation, or it's called many different things in different spiritual traditions. That we may catch glimpses of it on the way, and perhaps you've had them. No going back, right? Very powerful indeed. But the final awakening does not happen until we've removed all of the obstacles to our sight. So that's what we do. We raise them to our awareness. We give them to our inner teacher. We forgive and release, forgive and release. Set the ego aside as often as we remember to do it. And we have multiple opportunities every day, because anything, anything at all that is not wholly and completely joyous is an opportunity for forgiveness. So when we think we're an ego, when we side with an ego because it is our choice, we see only limitations. We think we're only capable of so much. We think our brother's only capable of so much. And we experience all of the pain and conflict that this world dishes out. Well, it's not dishing it out at you. The world is not coming at you, even though it may feel like it all the time. It's coming from you. You heard that right. It's not coming at you, it's coming from you. It itself is a limit on communication. Our communication as the Son of God with God is constant and eternal. In choosing to be an individual self-sustaining survival unit, so we think, we're choosing not to see. You might ask, why would we do this? Well, here's the answer. We did not. It is impossible, and this is a dream. The separation never occurred. It is impossible for us to separate from God. And therefore, it is impossible for us to separate from each other. What we see in this world of bodies is illusion. Enter the practice of spirituality, and piece by piece, as necessary, setting illusion aside. You don't see things the same way. Once you begin down this road, which I know you want to do, whether you adopt this course or some other spiritual tradition, or whether this is the last dialogue like this that you ever hear in this lifetime, you will pick it up again. Why? The separation never occurred. We're all perfectly at home in God, where we've always been. We simply don't recognize it. Spiritual practice is about our coming to recognize it and accept it just as it is. Truth awaits your acceptance. It simply is. It's not going anywhere. And you don't have to either. We all have the choice in the present moment to follow one of two teachers. This is our choice, the only real choice that we have. Everything else is a derivative of this. We could choose love or fear. God or the ego, the Holy Spirit or the ego as our teachers, light or dark, life or death, truth or illusion. That's the choice. So we don't realize this all of the time. We don't. As we careen through life, creating one obstacle after another for ourselves and every living thing, making our lives inordinately difficult. Why? Uh, because we're in love with guilt. Mm, yeah. We don't need to continue to follow the ego as our guide. It is useless as a guide, and in fact, it's nothing. There is no separation of any kind. It never took place, remember. So, at first glance, these ideas can seem highly bizarre. And perhaps you're thinking that, or you've thought that in the past, that, man, I don't know. This is, I don't know about this Course in Miracles thing. It's pretty weird. And this dude is crazy. Well, as I often say, what you see before you is a pixelated image on a screen. It's an assemblage of electronic dots. It happens to be reformed by this equipment. How it works, I don't know. It's reformed and reassembled in the configuration, or if you prefer, the guise of a middle aged man from Arizona. That's what it looks like. Who's speaking to you? No, certainly not an assemblage of pixels. It's the Holy Spirit that's reaching you. We're simply using this apparatus and this communication vehicle known as the internet to reach one another. The Holy Spirit is using it to reach you. So when something lands, count, absolutely count on the fact that it's him or her or it. It's really an it. The Holy Spirit's not a person, it's part of our mind or them or whatever you want to call it. There's always a message in each of these conversations. You'll know what the message is for you personally. Now, along the way, it's inevitable that questions will arise. This is very much a part of the spiritual path. And in fact, it's integral, isn't it, to ask questions if you've got them. So I have intended and created this as a safe space for you to ask questions. Should you have them, please feel welcome to leave them. And if you want to leave them in the comments here, that's perfectly fine. Also, if you just want to pop in and say hello, I invite you to do that. It'd be great to hear from you. If you have not yet subscribed, please do that as well. This is the prompt here, the subscription prompts in the corner of your screen. Click that arrow, hover over that. It's a growing international community. People are literally here from all over the world, which is one of the beautiful things about the internet, is we can reach each other anytime, anywhere. Yeah, good. Let's use this technology for the Holy Spirit's purposes, healing the mind. So subscribe if you have not yet. Thank you to those of you who have recently joined us. There are several videos that appear here on this channel every week. All right. Thank you for joining me, and I will talk to you soon.